So the topic is not very uncommon in today's IT scenario. Infrastructure, its resiliency, its whatever innovation we have been doing in the space of infrastructure, how we are utilizing it, security around it, and obviously sitting today, we cannot talk without AI, right? And in the beginning only, she made us accept that AI is tremendously beneficial to humankind. We are yet to see that. There are glimpses of both the sides. It is showing very positive signs, but at the back end, the quote unquote, I should not use the word harm, but quote unquote the negative consequences of encouraging AI, we are possibly undermining that. It's as a similar way that a few years back when the electric vehicles were being pushed by developed countries. And being in India, I still don't consider we are a developed country, we are a developing country probably. All the bad work was pushed onto our country to develop the material of the electric vehicles, electric batteries rather. But unfortunately there is not even one, I repeat, not even one electric battery manufacturing entity in the country. Our government is pushing for electric vehicles. Our government is giving rebate and concession for buying electric vehicles. But as of today, 8th of August 2025, not even one electric battery manufacturing entity. So similarly, we all are running after AI, and at the back end, to enable AI, there is a huge push to develop our infrastructure. The data centers, I mean, over the last 1 year, Kolkata has been kind of blessed with 5 live new data centers in our Rajanat place and Silicon Valley, right? So while all these are happening, we will try to understand how the nuisances are happening behind all these things, right? So, I have given some questions by Sanjay ji, but I told him there will be certain questions out of syllabus. And this gentleman, I told all of them that we might get out of syllabus questions, so they are pretty, some of them even gave the answers to me in writing. You know? The second page is a printout of someone who has given me 2 questions and the answers including. So I told him that these questions will not be asked. Be sure. So, okay, let us come back. So I'll start with the Oriental. Be it AI or anything, today we cannot talk without cloud strategy, be it hybrid, be it multi-cloud, hyperscalers, and all of it, right? So, while we are talking of balancing innovation with cost control, and also we are talking of hybrid and multi-cloud and hyperscalers and all of those, how do you balance in your organization currently among public cloud, private cloud, your on-premise? How do you consider when you are thinking of any application that would you be creating or developing them as cloud native, or you create something on-premise and then try to migrate to cloud? What's your overall kind of strategy around that?
Right, so it's a very interesting question. Means a couple of years back when everybody was discussing about cloud, so many of us, we thought cloud first approach should be the way forward. But now, sitting today, at Genwell, we develop a lot of applications. We manage more than 30 applications in-house, and by virtue of having a service organization now, we create a lot of applications for external customers also. What I figured out that moving everything to hyperscaler or creating all applications that cloud native might not require. what we have internally done is, before we start developing any applications, we do a proper design thinking approach, that who is going to be the users of this particular solution. Are they customer facing or are they internal usage? Whether I will require scaling of this application at some point in time, or it can move on with predictive workload. So that is one of the criteria, whether my application is customer facing, needs scalability, or it can have a predictive workload for some time. That's just one criteria. Based on that, we decide some of the applications is maybe best suited for cloud. We build that cloud native. We use all cloud technologies, use cloud services, most importantly. But some of the applications which we know for sure this will never be customer facing. This will be for internal users. Even for the customers we are building the application, they will never take it for their own customers outside. They use internally. We do not recommend to go for a cloud native application. And we also try to kind of containerize the applications we do so that the portability becomes easier. So I build cloud native, but at some point in time, if I wish to take it to on-prem, I should be able to take it on-prem as well, because if I see the cost factor is moving on. But what our problem is, if I use a lot of cloud services and then build the application, then it's a bit of difficulty. I require similar kind of services on-prem, which might not be possible all the time. So it's a balance that I have to take, the usage of the applications, the scalability requirement, everything together we will take a call that whether this is cloud native, we will move to hyperscaler or private cloud or even on-prem at some places. That's how we are defining our cloud strategy now.
Great, and thanks. So what we understand is the choice of cloud infrastructure is based on your business requirement. Right? Great. Aloke, probably will go to you that there is a new term which is coming up as infrastructure as a code, IAC, right? And we all are kind of, automation is a old word now, right? So how do you look at this usage of the infrastructure from the automation and IAC perspective?
Changed a lot, right? Mostly talk about public cloud, hybrid cloud, right, virtualizations and all. And what we have seen so far, that managing infrastructure uses multiple skill sets, right? And it has a lot of interconnected dependencies, right? And as also today we are talking about cost, so cost is one of the most important part. And what we've seen so far that if we try to convert to infra from a infra as a code point, what we did in virtually we did it 3 years back. During the COVID, when we all are working from home, we took the opportunity to convert the entire team in the ISC. The advantages that we have seen so far is that you don't need someone to log into a dashboard or a control panel and follow an instruction and designing that, right? And scaling it up or assigning a security group or handling users or the permissions from identity management. Because we all know that what is permitted, what is not permitted, that whole exercise, right? So why not put this entire thing as a code, right? And let the developers decide what when the whole thing you pushed up for either is creating a new instances, new VPCs or new network, or you are going to upscale it, right? So I don't see like we don't treat it as a though it has changed the entire the way that we work with infrastructure, we manage multi-cloud infrastructure. But we also don't see as innovation. We see it as a kind of a mandatory nowadays, right? So the biggest advantage of putting everything on IIC is the cost, because you exactly know that by the time the whole codes run and it spins up the infra, right? Our parallel system is actually allowing you and helping you, or it means enables you to check the cost. What is the projected cost? What are the other analytics part that we can maintain from a utilization, volume, risk, right? So it's basically is when you have a multi-cloud a large infrastructures, and that you have developers in house who can actually build that, because that's the most important part. right? Because once the ISC code runs, right, you don't have much chance to, check it in runtime. They will hold it back, fix your code, and then you again run. So if you have those kind of in-house skill that you can actually write a proper ISC code, I think that's the kind of advantage.
So great, Aloke. So basically, at the end, you are hinting towards the advancement in the technology, but the core requirement of skill.
Yeah. I mean nowadays we do use a certain part of that using Chennai. Just every time, but the major part is obviously human.
Great. So we'll come to the skill part of it separately after this. But let's go to Subhato. Let's go back to the theme. The theme is basically balancing innovation with cost control, right? So, in your organization, what is the basic consideration that while all of us are trying to innovate, I think none of our board will give us free money, right? So how do you think that while you are balancing between the innovation and cost, still you have to deliver to the business? So what's the strategy of that?
Good evening, everybody. See, the strategy is very simple. If you start suffering from the phobia and fear of missing out on a technology, you'll never achieve that. You have to first, basically in a manufacturing kind of a setup, your motto should be business first, technology next. Right. In that sense, you adapt only that technology which helps your business. You don't go and adapt and buy everything that is available in the market or which is new in the market. So this is how you balance your innovation with the proper cost. Cost doesn't mean only the amount you are investing. It is the return on investment which you are getting out of that product or that technology. That you have to figure out very clearly so that when you are deciding on it, you clearly know that this technology will suit my business and will give me an X amount of return in terms of whatever, in terms of maybe achieving agility, your speed, accuracy, improvement in time of delivery. So those things you should put it on a piece of paper, understand, agree with the business, and then move ahead. Don't jump into technology without understanding your business needs. This is my thought process, which I follow everywhere, because just buying technology for the sake of buying a new technology doesn't help you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think Subhato, again, what Arvind started with is basically business is the key. Whatever is required, we will try to justify and fulfill through technology. Be it innovation, be it cloud adoption, be it any other way or ISC, ultimately business is the key, right? Now, I'm not touching or directly getting into the skill development part of it. We will have a separate question on that. But Abhijit, if you don't have internal skills or as an overall, I would say, ecosystem of business, the internal IT team, the ITES companies, and the SI partners and the OEMs. Practically, this is the ecosystem, right? But again, to engage with them, you need to have a process. You need to have a structure, right? You need to have an evaluation, a continuous evaluation. You need to also have a selection process, or criteria, whatever you call it, right? So, I'm sure that you are engaging with your outsourced partners to work with you on your deliverables, right? So, what is your, how do you do it? How do you probably select? How do you probably continuously monitor? How do you evaluate your I would say, working partners?
Hi. Good question. So, internal resources is always a challenge. I think all of us sitting on this table at some point of time have faced or we will be facing. Even if we get a highly skilled resources in the organization, there are heavy chances of attrition as well. So, one thing is obvious that some people, while we build internal strength, we are augmented by outsourced vendors in most cases. The few challenges with outsourced vendors is with also the same similar thing is continuity. Somebody who understands your landscape and be able to deliver properly. Because if that individual changes, again, there is a learning curve that you have to go through. Managing risk with vendors are also important. See, when you're outsourcing something out to a third party, you are also at some point of time sharing the landscape with them. Now, it means the postures at the vendor end needs to be ring-fenced, and there must be guardrail put in place so that people who are working for you and working with you and with your assets, that is well protected as well. It is important for the beginning to lay down the statement of work in a manner they understand and it's attuned to your requirements. That is very important. Because for every money or every penny that you actually spend with the vendor, these days promoters, organizations are very concerned in terms of the return that they are getting. Security is no longer one of the paraphernalias that you just keep on spending. People are becoming concerned about it as well. So make sure that whoever that you're outsourcing, there is a defined SLA. Don't keep the SLA, which is very generic, and it keeps on continuing from a contract to contract. Each contract that we actually give out or we roll out, that will change. It will have a change from the perspective in terms of the statement of work that we will be doing. Ensure for every of these things, whoever that is coming in your organization to work, there is a guardrail in place so that your asset that they are actually handling, that is well and secure. Because you don't want to have an outsourced system where you're trying to protect that fundamental asset and that asset is lost, right? So whoever works, make sure that they have, and there are tools you can actually, third-party evaluation tools for that matter, you can actually send out, like for example, prevalence, security scorecard. You can actually assess the depth, the strength, the technical prowess of your vendors or the resources that will come and work for you. So utilize leverage tools, understand the skill set matrix that your person is bringing onto your table, augment it with your people, and set up a guardrail or an oversight so that whatever deliveries that are coming has an oversight on the deliverables that you're getting out of the vendor. So that whatever investment you're making, there is a prudent sense out of the investment.
Absolutely, Abhijit. So probably I will come back to you in a while and will expand this point that while you need to have the engagement clause with the vendors, it will also have beyond the skill, the security angle, right? You are watertight, but your vendors coming in through a small hole with some lacuna in their system, your whole empire will just get doomed, right? So we'll come back in a while.
Yes, it's also important, I think you point, sort of nail in the coffin. If your production system is with somebody and if they are compromised.
So we will get into that, in a while. So that's a related one, I'll come back to you with that same one, yeah. Aloke, I will come to you that while we have discussed about our primary strategy of choosing between hybrid, multi-cloud, on-premise, while we have discussed about automation to an extent, while we have discussed about, I would say, objectives of or balancing between innovation and cost, you have to run the show, right? So today, a lot of emphasis is being given by everyone on overall monitoring, observability, and I'll not use the word sustainability, that's a different angle to it, but how do you respond to situations if something goes wrong?
I'm into a D2C business, right? So, and nobody, even we don't like offering, right? So, as a customer, right, we don't like offering when you're watching a video. That's fine, but it also, builds a certain level of expectations, right, from the brand and the team who handles that part, right, from the infra and user experience. incidents point of view, right? So observability is, that I was asked to subject, so I can call. So that's, that, the visibility of, events and incidents, which is happening, right? Whether it's a system incidents or incidents being, occurred by an action from a user, right? These incidents are, very important, So we should have a, we have a completely event-driven layer, right? Where we have different SDKs and different agents, depending on the target, infra, right? That starts from endpoints to the Kubernetes, and not only that, even in the front-end app, right? So we put observability into the app. So we understand whenever you watch or use my app, we understand what exactly you're doing, what went wrong, in what gap, when you're tabbing something on application, what part of code actually didn't respond, right? And then it goes, beyond that, and we also, track the video player activity, right? So we track and we monitor, we, have every streaming bit by bit. So I can give an example, say for example, for a video player on Android, or the way where you watch it, Hoichoi, right? We collect around 220 events per second per user, right? So you can understand that some of these events only write you. Some of them are real time, some of them are near time, or something is on demand, right? So we have different SDKs for different platforms, and the collectors, which is, some of them are like open source collectors, some of them are in-house collectors, but we always maintain open telemetry standards so that we can push that data to any destination if required, right? And then it goes to Prometheus, and then we put that data to Grafana for visualization, right? So having said that, understanding what exactly is happening right now, as of right now, how my Kubernetes pods are happening, what my network is doing, how my user is interacting, right? What problem they have faced, in which part where they are trying to do something, they are trying to pay back, or they are even paying, which is very important, right? They are trying to make a payment and there is an error. If I don't know activity, or if I don't have that capability of capturing the event that this this payment process has failed, user is stuck, right? And if I don't know, then I probably by that time I respond, right? I have lost this customer. Right? So visibility is important, whether it's a B2C or backend services or not, because if we don't know what exactly is happening in my system, how am I supposed to serve others? Right?
So absolutely, Aloke. Again, in a way, we are coming back to the side theme is business is the king, right? Your customers is the king in this case, right? So how you can give customers a continuous, consistent service? For that, you need to do continuous monitoring. You have to have the continuous observability and the sustainability in your performance.
And that also includes the internal tools that the employees use, right? So they are the people who actually run this entire show, right? So, and most important part, what we have seen, right? And I believe in that over the years, that experience landscape has changed, right? Now my people, that people are also consumers.
That's
right?
Yeah.
So earlier we used to have that, we used to say this is a consumer app and this is a business app, right? This is for the enterprise users and this is for the consumers. But over the time, when these applications comes in on the mobile mostly, right? Were the same people who are also consumers. If they are using if they are using a business application inside the enterprise, and if I am not able to give them the same level of experience, right? Because they expect that, right? If somebody is, say for example, I can give you say a reporting system, internal reporting system, right? If my reporting system is not as slick as Zomato, then it's a problem. Even if this application is built for it, right?
Great. Yeah. So, great. So now, Anita, coming to you. Again, we are talking of automation, we are talking of AI, but at the back end, what all goes into get those running? Probably we are, as I started, probably you are undermining. So enough focus needs to be given on the sustainability and the green IT. I think these words came much before AI came into prominence, but they still have the same importance even before AI became the buzzword, right? So what do you that under all this, around all this, how are you ensuring that your environment is sustainable and you are focused to carbon zero footprint or green IT, at least within your environment?
Right. So, believe it or not, today IT infrastructure is one of the energy hungry infrastructure, right? So, all these data centers, the compute that's required by even now after AI, it requires a lot of GPU, it requires a lot of energy. Sustainability was important, now even more important. Right? So why? Because if you do a bit of study, you'll see that 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries have already crossed. And we are probably the last generation who can do something about it. Otherwise, we are again in front of one mass extinction. So good thing is that enterprises are responsive to this situation. Many of the data centers, if you see all big hyperscalers, they have committed to 100% renewable energy by at some point in time. So Azure, I think they have a target of 2030. AWS has again target of 2030, but they have actually reached that by 23. So they're 7 years ahead. Meta, in their one of their data centers, the West heat, they channelize through their local heat network, and that kind of reaches up to 1,000 households over there. So responsive use of IT infrastructure has already begun. Now what we can do as kind of end users, we are not Meta, we are not AWS. So again, it's kind of contradictory, as I was talking earlier, that not all workload should go to hyperscalers, but at the same time, hyperscalers use green energy than the other cloud providers or whatever I could build in my ecosystem, right? So probably it's a conscious call we need to take that the hyperscalers, the data centers who are helping us or who are already committed to net zero, to reduce carbon footprint or to use renewable energies, if majority of the workloads can go there. But again, there's a cost call, there's a conscious call that we need to do. We need to have a balance in that. So we, as end users, we might not be able to do immediately a lot of changes, but these conscious calls will help us to achieve that green IT infrastructure that we are talking about.
Okay, great, thanks, Arita. So, Narayan, so coming to you, obviously we have spoken about the innovation, the infrastructure requirement, the automation, the sustainability. Before we get into probably security, another big piece of the puzzle is the talent. It's development, it's acquisition, it's retention, or you acquire it through your partners. So how do you do that?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks to Enterprise IT and Chatterjee for this opportunity. Now, talent is something which, I mean, it's required for, I think, all the, or rather across all domains. So, what we need basically is, now, people these days, those who are coming out of universities and colleges, what they have is, they are more or less marks hungry. I mean, they are not like some of them may be having a better grade than Dr. C.V. Raman itself, but they don't have the talent. Because
nowadays they get 100 in English.
Yeah, 100 in English and Bengali. So what is required in this particular process is they need to be industry ready. Now, I do go for a lot of campuses. So when I speak to them, it's if I ask them for an algorithm or something similar to it, some basic mathematics will not be able to answer. That is a major flaw. So what we require is, we need to make the next gen bit industry ready. And one more thing is, they need to think about, when they are saying that I'll come to AI, I'll do programming, they need to understand the difference between traditional programming and what is being done in AI. Because in AI, in traditional programming, what we do is, we have the business model and we go on writing the code. When we are dealing with AI, we are basically having a look at the data first. We look at the data first, then we decide on what model is to be used based on the business process. So that is the basic difference we have. So the next generation, they need to understand the very basic concepts of what is happening around. Also, I would like to touch upon a bit on cybersecurity also. I mean, today we are talking of AI. I mean, maybe in another 2-3 years, we will keep talking about AI. But there is one more field which majority of the workforce ignore or is totally unaware of is cybersecurity.
Narayan, I'll just hold you there because we have a separate topic of cybersecurity. See, let us try and understand more into the society as at large, right? We can talk about India at least, and you started with that. Today the kids, even at our times also, we were just running after marks. Now, why is that? Because our demand is more than the supply. That's the core, right? If you look at most of the Western countries, they are at ease, they are at kind of really enjoying their life because their resources are much more than their demand. Their supply is much higher, right? At the same time, we cannot run away from our responsibilities as industry seniors, as simple as industry veterans. That if you look at the curriculum today, it is good at the master's level, but at the graduation level I see data science. I always question, whenever I get an opportunity, that how a person or a girl or a boy coming out from 12, graduation is after 12, right, will appreciate data science if they do not understand the basic foundation of a business. What is procurement, what is administration, what is HR, what is finance, all the facets and the sub-functions of a business. If you directly put them into data science, what are they going to do about it? Data science ultimately is interpretation, right? Interpretation is based on business requirements. So I think somewhere there is something not going right. We are running after that, one seat is there, 10 people running. So who will reach there first, will be able to sit there, right? So that's one of the problems that we are facing. Why we run, in Kolkata streets you see, why too many of us kind of try to go one beyond the other. Because one who gets earlier will get one more passenger, right? So I think that's the core problem. It is somewhere that we as people who should decide what curriculum should be there, we should decide how the future should look like. We cannot just put the baton down to the people who are going to the college, because they will choose what will give them a quick buck, right? Because this generation is eager for instant gratification, right? So that's the thing that probably beyond this discussion we should discuss. And in our capacity as a team here, as all of us here in the society, need to do that. How do we increase the availability of the resources and not push our next generation to get there because the resources are limited, right? So let's go to you, Abhijit, that another most important part of the game is obviously, as Narayan started, is the cybersecurity. So there are multiple frameworks. One of them is obviously the Zero Trust framework. we all understand that the perimeter security is nowhere there now, right? Because there is no practical data center per se. Your data can reside anywhere, be it within your data center, be it at the cloud, be it hybrid, be it multi-cloud. You don't know where your data is practically. So there is nothing called perimeter. So what does that mean? It means that you come back to your endpoint, you come back to your application, you come back to your data, and those are your assets which you need to take care of. So, your thoughts?
Hi. Good question. I think before I answer your question, we have been talking, I think let's get some audience involvement. So I'm not going to trouble you to get up. So I'm going to ask you a question. I want a fairly honest answer. Please raise your hand if, how many of you are actually using these LLMs full-fledged in your organization? And when I mean full-fledged, that means you're giving users the access to your LLMs. Can I see a raise of hand, please? No one? No one is giving any access to GPT or Claude? No one? All right, okay. All right. Any of us internally, so you guys head IT, right? Any of you using things like Code LLM, GitHub Spark for your development? Any of you guys use it for development? I'm talking IT. You're not leveraging Code LLM or anything for your code development. Okay, all right. Yeah, well, all right, so I guess everything is shut. So, see, if you shut everything, now let me come back to your question. So, if you shut everything down, you're actually going backwards, okay? We are getting at least a 40% traction in terms of speed by using, well, let's call it the GPTs of the world, right? If you don't leverage, you're going to hang backwards. Aloke talked about coding, right? And it is going at a rapid speed nowadays, right? And you're not going to waste time in doing mundane tasks, right? So a lot of you know about CI/CD pipelines, right? When you actually push a code. A lot of things are going to be automated, right? So you're going to start leveraging, but as you start leveraging this, you're going to face threat, which also to just point it out, right? So he also pointed to a very important line, which is very critical for all our understanding, that there are no perimeters. It is dissolved, right? So it's a luxury of staying restricted, and as Arindam was talking about the hybrid structure, assessing exactly what the business needs, that comes into play. So security is not a game about just protecting or setting up a guardrail, but doing so with a sense of business in the mind. That whatever you're doing, you're actually trying to protect the golden assets of the organization. So, as we go to these larger statements of this zero trust framework and whatnot, AI, insecurity, the fundamental practice is how you protect, as I said, the assets without withholding the growth in the organization by leveraging technology that is advancing. So, since you asked for zero trust, there are primarily three intertwined pillars, I think, right? One obviously is for, as I just spoke about, you understand your operational excellence in the organization, right? So, it is not like what it used to be, that a big house with, so it's an open thing, and there is guardrails, there's a big thing that's protecting you. Everything is open now. So, as you set up your architecture or structure, think from the protection that don't trust anyone. That's the fundamental behind the zero trust framework. Don't trust anyone, right? The second one, obviously, is the principles of investment, the technology tools that you need to talk about. So since I started asking you a question on opening your AI systems, there are tools now available at your disposal. I'm not talking zero trust per se, which can protect your data assets, yet giving access to LLMs in a secure manner. People can actually use GPTs of the world. So find out how you're going to do micro-segmentation, how you're going to do identity management, while governing this and protecting it on a zero visibility, zero trust model architecture. And the final thing I'll touch upon, again going back, circling back to the first question which I asked, you need fundamentally to change the mindset of the people, which goes back to what we have been talking about in terms of talent, right? It's the talent, whether it's in IT or your operational resource that is working and involved in your organization. So as you talk about zero trust framework, which is trust no one, measure, do micro-segmentation, define policies for access, you have to change the mindset at the core, because if people are not vigilant, mistakes will happen. We all think that access is a right. It is not. It's a privilege given to you. You need to understand how to defend and guard that privilege, and that's the fundamental change and shift you need to work at. Change your people's mindset, understand what the stakeholders' requirements are, understand the business requirements of your organization, marry it with the technology that you require, but do not return or withhold growth. Keep the growth at the right pace, marrying it with the right technology that will help you do so.
Absolutely, and I think I'll just add to what you mentioned is, if there is a problem, the mindset currently is to throw an automation, throw some tool, throw some technology. But more than anything else, in the space of cybersecurity, we know the weakest link is the user, is the end user, right? And
always a human.
Yeah, human. And how do you strengthen that? By not only introducing tools, but to allow system controls. You mentioned that, access controls, right? More often than not, even in today's world, in our current situation, we throw some technology, we throw some platform. So I think again, this needs to go back to the basics. Who needs to have access to what? Right?
And the funny thing also is that we all face this. We bring in these firewalls, the zero trust devices like Zscaler and of the world, right? Who controls and configures it? It's again a human being.
Absolutely.
Right? So if there is fundamental biases in that person and there's a lack of understanding, so for example him, right? Say for example he decides to bring cloud there, right? Now he has a delivery model, right, in CDN. And if, for example, people don't understand exactly how the delivery ecosystem is going to work for the people that he's trying to push the bandwidth to, they will not be able to configure it in the right manner or to tune it in the right manner. Again goes back to the human individual.
And another angle I'll just bring in, which we were discussing before the panel, is you asked me the same question, right? That in my organization is LLM open. This is all about LLM access. And even without deploying any tool, if you can restrict by controlling the prompt engineering, your work is 90% done. But the first thing that comes to our mind is a tool program, tool alert. Right? DLP, or something of that stuff, right? So I think everywhere it goes down to the basics. Anyway, so we have to move on. So Narayan, coming back to you, is one of the important facets of all of this discussion is we have the infrastructure, we have the automation, we have the business requirement, we have the skill, we have the security. But still we need to have backup, disaster recovery, and resilience to the whole process. So how do you look at it?
See, Atanu, I mean, we have been discussing about infrastructure, security, LLMs. The first and foremost thing that we need to train our users or customers is basically awareness. If they are aware of what is right and what is wrong, then we can have lesser disasters, lesser incidents. So what we can do is we can train the users, we can train, give awareness trainings, ISMS trainings to the users, and what we need to do is by training them, we can reduce the attack surface. So once the attack surface is reduced, then in that case, people will become more aware. And one more thing is, which I feel across it's all the verticals, all the domains, what exactly is required is regular audits. Regular audits, regular VAPT, and like the coders must be having both SAST and test. I mean the one which is at the developer level till you build the application and you go for a DAST again. SAST, I mean like you have a lot of technologies now which when at the basic, when you are performing the coding, like we see in Microsoft Word or Excel, we type something wrong. It's rather spelled something wrong. Then in that case, a red line is going to come. Similarly, there are a lot of tools available in these days, like either on VS Code or on Eclipse or any editor where the developer is coding. Veracode, SonarQube, a lot of things are there. So if we start using these, and so the developers, users, they become more aware. And we were talking about zero trust. Zero trust will become the order of the day for quite some time, I guess. Because nowadays, even in your office network, you don't need wires. You just go wireless everywhere. That will reduce your cost itself. Go for zero trust. If you have downstream applications with those downstream applications, what you can do is within your network, you can perform a site-to-site VPN, and you go for multi-factor authentication. Any application which is there on the intranet, do an SSO. So the basic thing that the industry needs to understand is we need, as I said in the beginning, we need to reduce the attack surface. Once we reduce the attack surface, then there will be less incidents, there will be less disasters. Because, see, something happened last night also. I think many of you are aware, like last night there was news that Active Directory was compromised in quite a few areas which has a hybrid Active Directory, both cloud and
hybrid exchange.
Yes. There were some compromise out there. So if the users are aware, the awareness increases, then we can reduce these factors. And definitely, I mean, since we are talking about AI, and at some point of time, zero trust using agentic AI is going to be in place.
But again, I'll just add to you what the point was, that the disaster recovery. With all these, still I think we need to have some solid plan of taking backups, keeping them in an isolated network, if possible. And there is enough technology now where you can give your immutable backups.
Yeah, that
this will not be kind of attacked by ransomware.
Yeah, that is basically when it's on the at this point you actually you have to go back to the basics.
Absolutely.
When you are designing the infrastructure, you have something on a different zone. All your applications, your data, you should be having in at least 2 zones. Whether it is Docker or whether it is Kubernetes or whatever it is, you should be having in separate zones, and there should be a daily backup. I mean, especially for the data. Applications backups, snapshots, you can have, say, once a week. But data backups every day is a must.
And nowadays, I think beyond LAN or network segmentation, there's an idea of application micro-segmentation. Now that is more relevant into probably financial sector, because there is more or less an ROI for that. But that is becoming more important in where you have loosely coupled applications and legacy applications. You don't know who is talking to who, right? So there are multiple technologies coming in. Now, I think Though we have enough time, we could have gone for one more round, but I think we should give back to the society in 5 more minutes. We started 1 hour late. So I'll just use the last 2-3 minutes over to you, Subrato, that probably, how can you just wrap up the discussion, considering of what all we have discussed, keeping in the theme in mind that on one side we need to continue innovation, we need to continue with automation, but at the same time we don't have unlimited resources in terms of money, price, cost, whatever you call it. So how do you propose for this ecosystem to move forward, having this balance?
So, just before touching this question, there was a discussion about the skills and the society's responsibility for creating industry-ready people. So, I don't want to use this forum to blame anybody, but we, a few CIOs here, are having a forum who are taking this forward very seriously. We are going for student internship, trying to make them industry ready. So when they land in the real world, they actually know what is what. Because I have seen SAP consultants doing MM who have not seen a store in his whole lifetime.
That's exactly the point I was going to mention.
Yeah. So that is the whole thing, because in our time when we started our journey in SAP, those were the people that were called consultants who came from the functional and learned technical.
Minimum 8 to 10 years of experience, and only you qualify for being a consultant.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now those are rare commodities in the market.
Right.
Even the big fours are not affording in Indian market.
Yeah.
Right. So those are rare commodities. What you get is technically skilled people without any business knowledge. Right. So that is the whole dilemma of this industry. Okay. And now touching upon this, when you say that how do you balance innovation with your business, I would like to say is that when you are thinking of a problem or in your company or organization which you would like to address through technology, at least when you are deriving on a time frame for that evaluation of that technology or implementation of it, keep 15 to 20% of your time in evaluating the proper product and do a proper POC which fits into your business. Otherwise, you will never get an ROI.
The groundwork.
Right. So this is what we avoid. Normally, in our kind of situation, what we do is that today the proposal comes, tomorrow we take all the course, and the day after we are on the project. Right. Because somebody's friend has said that this is a good product, or your MD's son has said that this is a good product, and at the end of the day, when you end up doing the project, you find that it's a complete waste, and after 6 months, the board will say you have wasted my money. So these things, people should get educated, trained on these things, because people who handle CIOs in organizations are not trained to handle it, because they don't know how to calculate an ROI on an IT investment. And very politely saying it, even the best of the CFOs don't know how to calculate an ROI.
So, unfortunately, we cannot reverse the trend.
Yeah.
There are CEOs and CFOs who are managing CIOs.
Right.
But I'll add one more small story. Just 2-3 days back, one of the organizations is trying to implement SAP from the ground up, right? So it was presented to the highest person in the organization, the chairman, and there was a proposal of 2.5 to 3 years, 30 to 36 months. The diktat came, I want it in 6 months.
Right. So that is the whole problem of it. And the thing is that if you spend time in understanding and evaluating a product which suits your business needs, and you take the business along with it. The business should be the leader, we should be the technology enabler. Okay. And then your return on investment will be 100% successful. And you need to put it on paper what you want to achieve out of it. Because most of it are verbal and it goes into the air like anything, and you start building castles in the air that this will do this, this will do that. People think of doing AI projects without understanding what is the stability of their data. Right? We are
And
talking.
today it is more difficult in, don't get anyone wrong, more difficult to promote a driven organization.
Absolutely.
Where there is one single boss.
There is one single boss, and there are too many people who around cannot say that the king is naked. Okay, you actually need a child to tell that the king is naked. Right, I'm talking about the Hans Christina Andersen story. Okay, so you need those people. You need good leaders who need a child to tell them that they're naked. Okay, but you hardly get it. People always say a naked king that, yeah, you are wearing a golden robe. Right, so that is the whole problem in promoter-driven organizations. But the whole mindset needs to be changed. If you start, follow the basic path. Don't go for fancy things. Go for things which will suit your culture, which will be fit into your organization. You will get ROI. And otherwise, any small investment, even if it is a few lakh rupees, you will end up in a sad story saying that this is kuch nahi hua. So that is the whole crux of it. I am a little blunt and blatant about it. Okay, but I am like that only. I stop from my heart and I stop straight. Whether people like it or dislike it, is their choice. I am like it. If you want to take me, you take me like this only. But people who handle IT or take decisions on IT either need to learn it or trust the CIOs to take the decision for them.
Absolutely well said, Subroto. So,
Thank you.
thank you everyone. The last point that I kind of wanted to make is in my career, and I believe all of you would agree with me, that seldom technology fails. It's the users who fail the technology. Right? So with that, I kind of wrap up this round. Thank you everyone. Thank you audience for patient hearing. Thank you.